All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast number 59. This is the one about reject what is useless. Really? Because there's no intonation on the internet, right? So as you guys are logging in, you know the deal. Be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, and hit the like button, and feel free to do so as I continue to talk at you if I say anything that's insightful or anything that you agree with, or even if there's anything with which you disagree as well, right? So the origin story for today's broadcast title, Reject What Is Useless. So I got my newest Bruce Lee biography last week or the week before. And this time, it's another, I consider it grammatically mistitled, right? So the one that I just got is Bay Logan's Bruce Lee and I, right? And when I saw that title, the first thing I thought to myself was, what the heck? Is he not aware that that title had been used already, right? So Sifu Nick is on here with me, right? I hope you guys enjoyed, because I certainly did, enjoyed our Jeet Kune dialogue of last week. And here's Maurice Robinson. So yeah, so we got two things, right? We got two Bruce Lee biographies with the same title. When I write mine, hi Kurt, when I write my Bruce Lee book, I think Sifu Nick and I talked about this, I will correct the grammar. My book will be entitled Bruce Lee and Me, right? Which I think is correct. So don't any of you steal that title before I get to it. Okay, so that was, it was because I was reading stuff there, and it just led me to, thinking about more of the misunderstood aspects of Cedro Bruce's messaging, like this exact reject what is useless debacle, right? So I'll give you a back hit story on that again. And I've said this before, but I have to ask you to join me in the campaign to correct anyone that you hear ascribing or attributing the origin of this whole quote, right, to Bruce Lee. So I'm going to give you the original quote. We should carefully study the lessons which were learned in past wars at the cost of blood and which have been bequeathed to us. We must absorb conclusions thus reached to the test of our own experiences and absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically our own. This is taken from, Bruce Lee and Me is already taken? Damn. Okay, thanks, Sifu Nick. Right? So that quote comes from Mao Zedong's book on the protracted war, right? Page 186. Now, I found it in a student report by Major Washington of the U.S. Air Force, and it was a student paper that he did in, I think it was 1983, 1986 or something, right? And he talked about the effects of Sun Tzu and Sun Tzu's Art of War on Mao Zedong. Right, and so the quote, yeah, so I think I have that right. Page 186 on the protracted war, right? So the way that I heard it is that Sifu Bruce, he came across it, he shared it with Inasano. Inasano ultimately had it made into a sign that went up in the Kali Academy, and then ultimately years later, Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, coined the whole thing, the 4 tenets of Jeet Kune, right? But it is evidence of mistakes. Let me show you what I mean. So this is one of my old rank t-shirts, right? So this is the front, and I might resurrect this and put it up on the JKD Rebel store. But this is the back of it. You see what's at the bottom there? Absorb what is useful, and it is assigned to Bruce Lee. The quote is assigned to Bruce Lee. It is incorrect. Right? So if you go now on the internet and you type in absorb what is useful, you will see a ton of images all attributing this quote to Bruce Lee, and it's all dead wrong. I was shocked as heck when Cas Magna revealed that to me, right? So I've made the same mistake as many other people, so join me in the campaign to clear this up, right? Remember the grief that Bruce Lee got when he said kata is useless? It was like if he had committed mass murder or something, right? And the thing is that, but that was because he was talking about his own purposes, and he was of course being radical. He was of course speaking a truth that a lot of people at that time were not ready to hear, far less ready to accept, right? The problem with reject what is useless though, okay? The problem with reject what is useless is that unlike Bruce Lee, a lot of people look at it and they want to use it as a shortcut to get into other things, right? So for example, students who want to spar immediately, but who they don't know the left hand from the right hand, but they've heard that Bruce Lee said that forms or kata or whatever, that's like trying to learn to swim on dry land. So they want to be cool and they want to get to the good stuff. They want to get to the combat stuff, right? But they got no coordination, right? So anything in their minds which is not immediately like fighting, they think that it's a waste of time, right? And a lot of times that's all that's going on. You see, because instead of people, look, here it is, right? Instead of people wishing to understand a thing, also, instead of them being willing to put in the time that it takes to understand a thing, what they'll do is they'll use some kind of misdirected reference to Bruce Lee, right? It is understandable, right? I'll cut him some slack because we do live in an age of somewhat instant gratification, you know what I mean, right? If not, definitely instant access, you know? I mean, when I hit share on this thing, people all over the world, because I'm so popular, right? People all over the world will have instant access to this video, right? So we have that instant gratification thing. So of course, since people experience that in a lot of things in their lives, then it's going to trickle down, you know, dribble its way into martial art also, right? So reject what is useless is good advice. I'm not saying that it isn't, but you got to be willing to think it through, and you also have to be careful just how it is that you go about putting it into practice, right? Episode 25 of the Jeet Kune Dialogues, when I spoke with my colleague Jeff Westfall, I'll paraphrase what went on here, but Jeff said something about a lot of times people think that very often they only have two choices in life, right? It's either this or that. It's either black or white. But we know that there's a ton of gray areas or gray matter, right, in between those two extremes, right? So it's the same thing here. What is useful for one person could be useless to another person, and vice versa, right? So, you know, often somebody can pull off a technique and somebody else cannot pull off the technique. So they say, well, that's useless, right? But here's the trick, right? Here's the trick. When ego gets in the way, you see, when ego gets in the way and people cannot just relax and admit that they cannot personally make something useful, then they want to condemn the entire thing, right? So it's like you know, they condemn it to the bin of uselessness, right? Just because they can't pull it off. So when look, it's like this. You get a lot of young people out there that they don't want to run the risk of doing the work that it takes to make a good living. So instead, because they might fail, right? So instead, they put their hopes in politicians who promise the good life through a whole bunch of government programs without keeping in mind, right? Without keeping in mind that what the government gives you, the government can ultimately take away from you. All right, I had to throw that in because of last night, right? Okay, so it's like the people, let's bring it back to martial art, right? It's like ego sets in And it's the people who reject Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I like to use them, because it's a sport. It's not, it's sport combat, or boxing, right? Or even Bruce Lee and his Jeet Kune. Because why? They reject Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee has no fight record in tournament competition. Ridiculous. Exactly. Right? So something that you reject when you're young could be of great benefit to you when you're older. Sifu Asano talks about this on seminar all the time, reminding us that our approach to training might have to be modified every 5 to 10 years. Now, he's gonna be, 83 this year. He's been in martial art practically all his life. Maybe there's something there to listen to, right? Now, might I be so bold as to suggest that in rejecting certain aspects of the traditional arts, right? Like, let's say the very same kata, which is a method of preserving the art, right? So understand this, right? Kata forms or whatever, there are certain things that help to preserve the art, help to pass it on. Is it possible that Bruce Lee made a little bit of a mistake in not planting seeds for the perpetuation of the training method of his own art by rejecting certain classical ideas? You guys chime in on that, right? I like to throw the questions out there to you, right? But of course, Bruce Lee had no intention of dying before Enter the Dragon was released, did he? Right? So who knows what would have happened? All right. That's why I think it's up to us to listen carefully to what the old timers have to say, but at the same time, it is incumbent on those very same old timers to pass on nothing less than the truth to the later generations. Another one of my JKD Dialogues guests, this was episode 33 with Stefan Kesting. He has a couple of videos dealing with the whole topic of the kata idea in his self-defense tutorial series, right? I recommend that you check him out. And he talks about how some instructors use the whole kata or the forms thing as a way to string the students along for a long time, with the promise of one day revealing like the secrets in the form, all the hidden knowledge, right? And look, I'll tell you this. I am like anybody else. The idea that there's hidden knowledge, that there's lost knowledge, I find that quite seductive. I find that quite attractive, right? And I think you can see something similar happening in the JKD world with the floating of the idea that if we go back to Wing Chun, or we go back to the 5-gate form, or we go back to the JKD kicking sets, right? That kind of stuff. The stuff that reportedly Bruce Lee kind of jettisoned in the latter day, in what some people might call latter stage Jeet Kune, that if we go back to these things, somehow we'll discover some kind of lost knowledge, right? But don't get me wrong here. I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying, because some of the most highly respected people in the JKD clan are promoting, let's say, or teaching the old school knowledge. So I am not condemning them. I'm saying that both sets of people on the end of this, right? So the people who are on the receiving end of this instruction, but then also the people who are on the delivering end of this instruction, everybody owes it to JKD to fully explain and to fully understand the context behind what it is that they're doing. And I think that they should be ensuring that it is all relegated to the bin of practical, realistic training. So if you're showing the 5-gate form because you want to put it into historical context, you want to show people where it is that Bruce Lee came from, something that Bruce Lee may have made use of, but then you leave it there, then you may not be using it to its fullest capabilities within the realm of the Jeet Kune Do approach, right? So practical, realistic training, and don't just hold it in its wonderful historical, like, pristineness, or whatever the word is. That's not a word. I don't think that's a word, right? Okay, we got to be careful with stuff like that, because, you know, one day somebody might go from like the 5 gates to the 26 gates of Jeet Kune Do or something like that. Okay, all right, that's it for today. So feel free, share, like, comment, ask questions. I'll review everything after posting. Sign up for notifications for when we go live on Facebook and when we post the new videos on the YouTube, both at the broadcast channel and at the dialogues channel. On the dialogues, let's see, Friday, January 11th, Billy Jack Rooks of One Source Progressive Fighting, right? He'll be my guest. That's at standard time, I think 3 p.m. on Friday, at ilovejeetkundo.com. Volume 1 of the Quick Skill series, at jkdrebel.com/store. Go over there, see if you find something that you like, make a purchase. All proceeds go to support the channel and help us to in our efforts to upgrade what we offer. And I'll see you back here next week, same time, for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel. You guys take care. Here's today's shirt. Cool. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care.